Alpha Omega is a game from the 70s that many people have forgotten, but it has its place in our hobby's history. I'm going to share why this game matters here on Legendary Tactics. If you are looking for rare out-of-print games like Alpha Omega, you might want to check out Noble Knight Games. Noble Knight has one of the world's largest collection of board games, miniatures, board game accessories, and all sorts of other stuff to help round out your collection. You can see them in their store or you can order it in. They will ship internationally. So check them out. I've put a link in the description, and if you click on that, it helps both them out and our channel. So Alpha Omega might be arguably one of the early iterations of the 4X board game concept. Now, for those of you not in the know, 4X means explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. Essentially, it's a civilization building type format of board games and video games as well. It basically involves starting out in a small star system and expanding outwards, settling planets so you can get at their resources, and eventually fighting each other, whether it's other players or an alien species or what have you. So Alpha Omega doesn't play like that, however, but it is part of the puzzle that formed 4X. The core mechanic is more or less naval warfare on a star map, and it was criticized as such back at the time, but it does have some elements like tech and some fleet construction and so forth that kind of bridge the gap between what was at the time war games and historical simulations and this new sci-fi thing that was really had really captured the imagination of the population at the time. This game came out in 1977, which was obviously a peak in the interest in sci-fi, with Star Wars being one strong representation of that trend. Now, one of the most fascinating things about this game, to my mind, is the thought that went into the history of this game. A good chunk of the rulebook actually details the history between the humans, the Rylsh, if I'm saying that right, and the Droves, which are the three races that are in conflict in this game. So let's take a look and see what's inside the box of Alpha Omega. And check out these rules. This is black and white, no color. Looks almost like a print and play photocopy of the rules. And it's solid text for about 12 pages. Then you get the optional rules. And what's really impressive though is the designer's notes. This is all backstory up to the top here. All backstory about the world and the history that the game represents. Then we've got the scenarios and one solitaire scenario, which may have been unique at the time. And then we've got a famous table. the 70s were famous for those. And you can see there's a few here. Now, I'm not sure, these look like they're printed out. I'm not sure if these are player aids that were from Board Game Geek or whether they're just replacements of tables that were lost or something like that. This is a used copy. And then we have the log sheet, and this tracks damage as well as energy. There's energy, the drive, the ECM, the shield, the weapon, and so forth, and including the total energy spend and that sort of thing. So it's a bit of administration with this game. And then of course you have the map board. And like almost all space games, it's just empty space with a few markings on it. As I said, here's the full map board. You can kind of see there's some directional aids, but other than that, you just have empty space, as is typical of a lot of space warfare games. So you can see here the tables that were, let's see, we've got the game tables for range, and we have the weapon characteristics. But check this out, unpunched counters. This game was opened but never played. Now the images aren't great, they're just kind of a very weak printing. It's almost hard to tell what's on there, but still kind of neat that this game was purchased and held for presumably the last some few decades and never actually played. So we're going to make sure to rectify that for sure. And check out this cute little die. Wow, this is tiny.
I wonder why they tried to save money on providing such small die back then. So this is everything that comes inside the box of a game of Alpha Omega from Avalon Hill. So you can kind of see is not a ton of stuff, just a few tables, some counters, and a giant blank map board.
Now why it worked is that this was an example of Avalon Hill broadening its scope beyond the historical war game and trying to, again, taking advantage of the trend of sci-fi at the time. A lot of board game companies were doing that, including SPI. So it's Avalon Hill experimenting and trying something new, trying to broaden the appeal of board games and at the time expand the market as much as possible. Now what doesn't work so well about this game is that it is judged by many to be a kind of 6 or 7 out of 10 kind of game. Nothing too notable directly from the game itself. It plays fine, there's nothing wrong with it. It's kind of a good, not great kind of thing. And it never reached mass popularity, especially these days. Most people have never heard of it. However, I think it's an important link in the chain that did connect historical wargaming to all the sci-fi games that have come out since. And arguably there may be some DNA from this game in a lot of other future designs that we all know and love. So I think Alpha Omega matters. It's a game that serves as a link between the historical wargaming of the 70s and what eventually became 4X games. So I think this is a flawed but important game that gives us a perspective on the state of the art and what people were thinking of 50 years ago and how our hobby was evolving. And I think it's worth checking out. Thank you for watching. This is Legendary Tactics.